is extremely helpful to us in this project and just in general. So Chuck's going to talk about earthquakes and tsunamis a little bit.
So can you hear me? That's good. One of the things I want you to understand before I even get started is that you made history. You're the ones who voted to have this built with very, very, very little government assistance. And this is history. This is the first vertical evacuation, tsunami engineered, safe haven building in North America. And your vote, your dedication behind the school did it. So you're sitting in a piece of history nobody else has in North America. So congratulations to you. So Paula said, you know, we had this dedication, but we never told the people how to get in this place. And she said, I think we need to tell them how to get in there in case something happens, because it's a distinct possibility. So what I'm going to do is there's a couple little parts I'm going to do. I'm going to blow through these pretty quickly, but there's some pictures here and I want you to really pay attention to. I'm going to give you an idea of why we built it the way that we did. So we all know we live along this Cascadia subduction zone, and it goes from Northern California all the way up past Vancouver in Canada. And you see where we sit, which is right in this area here, we're a little bit past the halfway point. In case this thing ruptures, it goes all the way up. Now, just so you know, everybody hears about the 1700 tsunami. That was the one that definitely affected the Washington coast and the west coast of the United States. Well, there were 5 other ones, just as severe, that happened prior to that. And when you start looking at the numbers, every 300 to 500 years, we do have one of these events. So right now, what we have is the Juan de Fuca plate on the Earth, and this is the North American plate here. The Earth is alive. Whether you want to believe it or not, it's always moving, always doing things. It is alive. And at this point in time, the Juan de Fuca plate is pushing underneath the North American plate. But what has happened is the plate is stuck. So it's not sliding over the top. And it's creating this rise in the land. So when you hear about sea level rise in the world, what's the only place you don't talk about sea level rise? The Pacific Northwest. Exactly right. Because we're stuck and we're actually going up as everybody else is going down, the seas are rising. Our land is going up, and believe it or not, according to the data, we're actually higher now than we were back in 1700 when that slipped. Just information they want to give. So what happens is, sooner or later, that breaks and slides back over top of the plate. The land comes down, it's something called subsidence, and I'll show you a slide in a second. And what happens is, when it comes down, this will flip up, creating this huge wave, which part of it will come towards the mainland of the United States, and part of it will head to the Far East and impact China and other countries out there. And this is what subsidence does. According to everybody that's done work here, we're supposed to drop 4 to 6 feet at the coast if this happens. So during the earthquake, you won't even realize it, but we'll be dropping 4 to 6 feet down. And this here is from California in the San Joaquin Valley. This is a subsidence they've had since 1925 to 1977. So all those earthquakes they have, they drop a little bit at a time. So here's 1925. This is where the land level was. 1955, it was here because it dropped. And in 1977 is where this guy's standing. So it happens all the time. This is real. Where we are situated here at the school, and this was the old elementary school, and I have a better picture later on. But what we sit is, here's the beach, and it's about a little more than a half mile to 3/4 of a mile to the school. And then here's the ball field, and here's where the water sits in the bay behind us. Only at certain times of the year, when we have the flood times and the rain for day after day after day and heavy rains, that water goes from here up into this area, gets much closer to the school. So when we have that subsidence in the earthquake, it will actually be possibly at the school following the earthquake. This is a better picture. One of the other things we have is right here on Montesano Street, it's about a 40-foot ridge where the street is. So you notice it's higher than where the school sits. So I've asked the modelers and all the geologists, they said, well, will that protect the school if something happens? And they said in a cascading event, minimally you will have 4 tsunami waves. That's what they predict. They believe the first 2 will eat away at this because it's a lot of sand, a lot of fill in this. They will eat away at this, and probably the 3rd wave will overtop where that is and come into this area, as well as the Bay Area is going to rise because water's going to go back there. It will rise very slowly like a sink and begin to surround this area. And when they meet, well, they're going to meet in here. This is where the students used to go, on the 2nd floor of the high school. And I used to say, I don't think it's high enough. And they, people used to ask me, why isn't it high enough? I said, well, even if we had water to the 1st floor, what's on top of the water? When you looked at everything from Japan, what was on top of the water? Cars, logs, pieces of other homes, all that debris was there. And I said, what happens is, we asked, why are we building this? But what happens is, this is where the kids were in the high school. I said, it's not high enough. And any child that was sitting there now became a casualty of the incident. And this is one of the big things we had to stress to the school, is that it's probably not high enough for what we have to do. The other thing that happens is when the ocean meets the bay, you have water here. And this is a pretty frightening picture because it's from Japan. There are actually people in these windows as these homes are beginning to wash away as the water comes. I don't know what happened to them, but this water has a velocity to it. So when it meets at the school, there'll be a velocity to the water. So even if the wave or the water level doesn't even get to 10 feet, if it's 3 feet, 4 feet, there's still this major velocity to the water that a child can't stand in, I can't stand in, no adult can stand in. We will lose people unless they have a place to go. And you see how the velocity is eating away at the buildings. So we needed something to be able to withstand all of that. And this is what our ultimate goal is. If you look at this is from Japan. Look at the devastation of all these buildings. But these people are safe. They're on top of a safe haven building that they built in Japan. And this is what our ultimate goal was for this school, is to make sure that the children, the staff, all the employees here at the school and the neighboring community can get here and you're safe. That's number 1 goal, stay alive. So, just before the Japanese earthquake and tsunami, University of Washington, Washington State Emergency Management, a lot of different agencies came to me and said, we have this project called Project Safe Haven. Some of you may have participated in it. We went to Westport, Ocean Shores, Aberdeen, and Tahola up in the Quinault Indian Nation. And what we did is we took the population, took you, the citizens, and said, show us where you believe a tower should be built based upon the walking speed of an elderly person for any given earthquakes event. Where could they get to, and where could you build a tower, or a berm, which is like a big hill, or a building? And they did a good job, and we had architects come in, and the architects designed what the people wanted and where they wanted, and one of the spaces was actually the school here. And we did this, and I'll give you a quick story about it. The night we did the first meeting, we had 45 people in Ocean Shores at the Shiloh Inn. And when I came home that night, I'm standing in front of my wife is in the living room, she's reading a book, and I'm eating a can of tuna fish. It was nighttime. And my phone went off. And I said, I have to go to work. And my wife said, what for? And I said, Japan just had an earthquake and there's a tsunami coming. I'm not kidding you, it was the night of the Japanese earthquake and tsunami that we had the first meeting. And my wife said, she goes, Japan just had an earthquake. I said, yes. And she said, and they have a tsunami's coming. And I said, yes. And you're going to work. I said, yes. And we live in Grayland, about a half a block from the beach. And she said, we live a half a block from the beach. What am I supposed to do? And I said, well, if it's going to be that bad, I'll give you a call. And just take the dog and run up the hill. And she went nuts on me. She went berserk. And I'm thinking, oh my God. And she's Irish. She's got green eyes and everything. And I go, Japan had an earthquake and Godzilla's in my living room. I mean, she was going nuts at her. And she's, she's yelling. And all of a sudden, she just calmed down. And I go, what's going on? And she says, it's okay. Everything's fine. And I go, what's up? She says, if it was really that bad, you'd be bringing the dog. So it helped her settle her nerves. Everything was cool. And we moved on. However, once we finished this whole project, a year went by and nobody did anything. Nobody in Grace Harbor County did anything, not even thinking about it. And Oregon had it for almost a year before us, so almost 2 years nobody did anything. And I read something about the school, that they were building this elementary school, and I almost didn't come. My wife said, why don't you go and talk to the superintendent, see what happens. And I walked in, when I talked to Paula, she said, well, we've been thinking about it, we just don't know how. And I said, I know people who do. And when we brought them in, they talked to the school board and to the building group and all these different people here, and nobody said no. Everybody said, yes, let's keep going. And Paula was tenacious as we moved on and did everything. All Heather wanted to do was destroy the old building, so we saw that in the other pictures. But she was tenacious, and we got this thing moving, and it was amazing. So we said, well, why do we want to build this kind of school? So typically, the schools that we have now, they're not pillared in very deep. And in Japan, you see, this is a building, this is actually the bottom of the building, that the water actually scoured so much that it lifted the building and flipped it on its side. And we're thinking, well, that's not the kind of building that we need. We need something that's going to be earthquake, built for the dynamics of earthquakes, multiple earthquakes, because when we have Cascadia, there will be aftershocks, hundreds, thousands of aftershocks. Some will be big enough to generate a second set of tsunami. It's definitely possible. So you see, we need to build a different kind of building. So when they had that earthquake and tsunami in Japan, they were talking about these type buildings that can resist that, and they said they have them in Japan. And I said, show me those buildings made it. Show me the towers, show me the buildings, show me the berms, and I'm in. I said, but if they didn't make it, why am I wasting my time trying to tell people to build something that doesn't work? So I went to the engineers of Washington State engineering groups, and they sent groups to Japan, and they called me on the phone, they said, they're all there. Every one of them that they built to these earthquake and tsunami issues are there. This building they saved 71, this one they saved 450. 400 people were saved, 1,000 people were saved, 200 people were saved. These buildings are still there. And this building here is built extremely similar to the way this one is. The piles underneath, this happens to be an apartment building, but it's extremely similar to this, and you see the scouring all around the building, but the building's there, and they took 45 people off of this roof. They survived. But when you look at this guy sitting there, there's nothing left. It's gone. But the building is still there. So your children and all of your friends and relatives that can get here will survive this. And that's the nail that hit for me. I said, I'm in. If we can keep people alive, I'm in. And that's why we moved forward, and that's the kind of stuff we were showing the school board when they started, decided to go move forward on this. They built the school, and on June 11th of last year, we dedicated North America's first vertical evacuation tsunami engineer safe haven structure. It's amazing. And countries all over the world call us, they want to know information. There are many, many jurisdictions just in Grace Harbor County that are considering building these type of things. Nationally, they're talking about anywhere in an inundation zone that they're going to force them either to move out of the inundation zone or build some kind of structure with a vertical evacuation aspect to it. The thing that's really wild about this is they had to write the engineering, because there was no engineering to build this. They had to write a whole new set of engineering standards. It's not even in place until 2018. That's how far advanced this school is. It's not even going on the record for everybody else till 2018. This already has those capabilities. It's amazing. So the thing is, what happens once you're up there, though? So we got 1,000 people, more than that, 1,500 people standing up on the roof. And you're gonna be up there for at least 24 hours because that's the whole sequence of the tsunami. And if you have these large aftershocks, which is any aftershock 7 or above can create another tsunami right off the coast here. You could be up there for a day, 2, maybe longer. So what happens once you're up there? Like, who's coming? So what's going to happen is, more than likely, National Guard helicopters will come and airlift people off the top. Even though you may be able to get down to the lower levels of the towers, they may be blocked with debris. You may not be able to get them open, so they may be taking everyone off the top. But if you can figure a way to get outside, they'll land them on the ground and take them off. But you're going to be getting off with National Guard helicopters. And people say, well, how do they know we're there? Guess what? If you're the news media, and there's a huge earthquake on the coast, what's the first thing you want to say? They built that school. Is that thing still there? So you're going to get the first helicopters coming here. And if you're up on the roof, they're going to say, they're there. They're still alive. And guess what the politicians in Olympia are going to say? Don't let them be there tomorrow. Because that's really bad news when they show them on Tuesday, and it comes on the evening news on Wednesday, and they're zeroing in on that little 6-year-old or 7-year-old little girl or little boy on the roof, and the kid's still up there. This time he's a little bit cold. Really bad politically for people. So you're going to get moved off of that really fast. You'll be one of the first places evacuated, guaranteed. It's all for politics, so sometimes it's good. Big thing is when should it be used? Because there's times when you shouldn't use this building. The main thing is if you feel the earthquake, always come to this building. Because we don't know if a tsunami was generated maybe for 10 or 15 minutes following the ground shaking. So if you feel the ground shaking, you can get here, you get up on this roof and you hang on until somebody in authority tells you to come down. Not the ice cream guy, not the guy selling newspapers, but somebody in authority, a police chief, somebody from the state, somebody from the county tells you it's okay. All right? The other one is if you're around and you hear the Ahab siren wail. That's indication that there was a tsunami generated somewhere else. We may not feel it because if it was generated in Alaska, you won't feel the earthquake more than likely, but it could generate a fairly large tsunami and they're telling people to get to high ground. The thing with Alaska is, if you're looking at Japan, you have 10 to 15 hours before the tsunami comes. But Alaska, you have maybe 3 to 5 hours. So if we start telling people, hey, get your stuff at home and get on the road to move, you're not getting out of town before that wave strikes. We've actually done modeling, and from both the city of Westport and the city of Ocean Shores, it takes 5 hours to get essentially to Montesano on any given Tuesday if we were to tell people to evacuate. That's not enough time. That wave will be there. We will lose people's lives, so we're going to tell you to get to high ground. So if you hear the Ahab siren wail, and that's the siren, not the Westminster chimes and the little test we do every first Monday of the month. It's the siren going off, and it will go off multiple times. Get up on the roof of this place. And the reason why we tell you that you have to walk, more than likely, is because in Cascadia, it's going to destroy your roads, and this is something called liquefaction. And you see, this is from Christchurch, New Zealand, what the liquefaction does. You could be riding down, there's usually water in the road, so you don't see that until it's too late, and then you're driving down into the hole. It will destroy the ground. Our roads are built on fill, but there are trails of peat that cross all of our roads. That's the ones where the roads, where you see those big breaks in the road, it goes up and down, that's where the breaks will occur. So we don't want you driving down in water and find out you're hitting a 4-foot wall and all of a sudden you go down and you drown in the water. We don't want that to occur. Remember the subsidence, 4 to 6 feet. Here on 105, what happens at high tide when you're driving between the subway and Brady's Oysters. What's the road look like when you're driving through there? Water's right up to the side, right? So you drive 4 to 6 feet, you seen that road? You're treading water. So your best bet is to get the high ground and do what you can. If you're notified a distant tsunami is approaching, so if we have 10 or 15 hours, and we're telling you, hey, let's get off the coast, there's going to be a significant wave here, go somewhere else, please. Only use this as a last resort. Because if you have 10 or 15 hours, the roads are still going to be good. You can get in your car and head to Olympia and east. Get a hotel, do whatever, and stay there until you know it's safe to come back. Because once the tsunami comes, it may wipe out your home. It may be quite a while before they allow people to come back into the area because of hazmat issues and other issues that they have. So we just want to make sure that it's only used as a last resort. And there are people that don't have transportation, people that have other issues that they can't get out on time. Yes, this building will still be here, but the problem is if it's a distant tsunami and we're telling everybody to leave, you become one of the small groups of people that are still here, and we have to make different efforts to come back and get you when you could have been gone from the whole area. So, but it is available as your last resort on a distant tsunami. But if you feel the earthquake, what do? Come here, right? You hear the Ahabs going off, what do? Come here. No questions asked. And I already told you about the tsunami, the distant event. The other one is for everyone here, not only just the kids. You should have a Go Kit. I have 2 packs here. The big one is an adult one, and the small is actually for a pet, because your pet needs a Go Kit too. But everyone should have these, because if you're stuck outside and you have to go to high ground for more than a day or two, if you don't have water with it, you're in trouble. You better hope that somebody's willing to share their food with you and their water with you. So this will give you some things, a parka. I tell us to the schools, a lot of people say, well, we're just going to give the kids trash bags or put them on their head, but the water runs down their back and they all start crying like banshees, right? Well, the high school kids here, how do they go to school? Even in the winter, the coldest day of the winter, how are the boys dressed? Short pants, short sleeve shirt, flip-flops, right? They're cool, they can do their thing. And I said, well, if we have to go up here and it's 26 degrees on top of this building, or it's raining really, really hard, because in Japan, they had that tsunami and earthquake, and went to 26 degrees and snowed that night. But say it goes to 26 degrees and it's raining and snowing, and they said, you're gonna hear crying like crazy. And they go, yeah, those little kids are gonna cry. I go, no, they're gonna have their parkas on. It's gonna be the high school kids who should have known better that are gonna be crying. That's the crying you're gonna hear. So we should get everybody a Go Kit. We should have them at different places. And then school's a really good place to have them. And actually they're doing a little program out here today if you want to go out and see how they can do it for the little kids. Our main goal here is 2 things. If this occurs and you're in Olympia, or you're in Tokeland, or you're wherever else you are, and the child's at this school, or you have family members that can get to this school, if you can't make it, don't get in your car and try to get here. The school has a really, really good plan. Those kids will live, okay? They're going to live through the event. Our goal is to keep you alive instead of trying to get on the road and get here, getting in an accident, and now your child's without a parent or a grandparent. All you had to do was wait because you know they're already safe. Our goal is to reunify everybody. Maybe a day or 2 later, that's tough, but it's a lot easier than trying to tell someone that we just lost your grandparents, we lost your parents, okay? We want to make sure of that. And even in our worst event, in Japan, they only lost 14% of the population on the coast. And part of that was, I believe it could have been as low as 8, but they believed they were prepared enough. They only prepared for a 75% earthquake event, and they had seawalls that had protected them from other smaller tsunamis. So when this tsunami occurred, many of those people were just walking around like it was every day. They had these issues all the time. And people were driving to the school to get their kids, and all of a sudden the water came over the seawall, and that's why they lost so many people. But they only lost 14% of the coastal population. So since we know what to do, our numbers should be a lot less if we can get here. We built this to the 100% event that we have. So this is built high enough to withstand all that. Forces of multiple cars bouncing off the side, multiple earthquakes, multiple tsunami waves. This building is built to withstand that, and I showed you the pictures of the one in Japan. They're still there. Every one of them. is still there. They took people off the wall. That's something you need to understand. And this is the big one, and Steve Schmell is going to tell you in a minute.